Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha Bee, Chief Content Officer of the cocaine gerbils that are rattling around Nancy Mace's brain. Wow, what an odious person.
Now, just remind me, Nancy Mace has done so many things. What has she done now?
Oh, well, today she's racing around the halls of Congress, putting up signs indicating that the bathrooms are for biological females only. Yeah, she's the welcome wagon.
She's the welcome wagon.
Yeah.
I'm very glad I don't live in Nancy Mace's district.
I couldn't be more grateful that I don't as well. What a cruel human being. Good luck to her in the afterlife that she so fervently believes in.
So on today's show, in the download, we're getting an inside scoop from Joel Leppard, good name for a lawyer, who is representing the two young women accusing Matt Gaetz of sexual misconduct. He has vehemently denied it. For our Beast of the Week, we're speaking with Morning Joe co-host Mika Brzezinski, fresh out of her highly scrutinised meeting with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, a pivotal moment during their heated public 7-year feud. Afterwards, it's part 2 of the Cabinet Cabaret from our Mar-a-Lago patio correspondent and Daily Beast executive editor, Hugh Dougherty.
All right, well, let us jump right in. Joanna, before we do anything, we have to talk about our rented studio space and how just as we were coming into it, it was revealed that right next door, Dr. Oz and Jordan Peterson were also recording a podcast.
Do you mean our Adirondack studio in the middle of Times Square? Listen, the man likes crudité. That's all I'm saying.
He certainly does.
He's going to bring crudité to Mar-a-Lago.
He certainly does.
He's going to bring crudité to the American diet. The odd thing is, I would have put him, because he is actually a doctor, unlike RFK Jr., who looks like a freeze-dried version of Donald Trump.
He really does. And do you know that my friend saw him in the Mount Kisco area getting a stack of pizzas the other day?
What?
Yes, that's right. Purchasing a stack of pizzas.
Did they get a photo?
They did not get a photo.
I would like to hear from anybody that's seen RFK Jr. in a fast food joint anywhere. Pizza, what?
Just like snarfing a Popeye's chicken sandwich under the cover of darkness.
Are they hazing him when they make him eat McDonald's on the plane?
That's the one and only thing that I have ever liked about him, because I do find him to be just reprehensible, is the facial expression that he made when faced with a Big Mac and fries. That's the funniest thing to me that I've seen in a long time.
I think they were force-feeding him fries, but they are very good McDonald's fries.
Sure. They are better than the sad carrot and celery sticks that you like to buy in a cup.
He doesn't even play a doctor on TV. What is he doing at Health and Human Services?
Oh, my God. I'm sweating. My sweater is soaked, and we're 3 seconds into the podcast.
Okay, well, we'll have a change of sweater for you halfway through. I need a co-host for the podcast, and I can't have you going off to jail in the middle of it because you've tried some valiant attempt at redirecting the course of history.
Just have him on the podcast, and I consent to appearing on it with him, and all I will do is make a list of 10 things that I actually think are very important things for him to maintain or improve in his new job, and I'll just keep saying those because there's really no point in trying to talk sense into these people.
He is less alarming to me than Pete Hegseth at the 2.9 million people Department of Defense. He has literally no management experience. Can you
none.
Imagine even beginning to think about managing 3 million people?
And I certainly cannot imagine Pete Hegseth doing it.
Right, although he does have good tats. Let's acknowledge the tattoos.
You're back from Barcelona. That's good. I'm glad you're back because I don't want you to be gone. I want you to be here.
Well, I appreciate that.
Stewing in the delicious juices of America. Just percolating in the glory. You don't get to go. You have to stay here.
I have to stay. I will say that there is much alarm in Europe over the decision by Biden to allow President Zelensky to use long-range missiles. It felt so gloomy there. There's quite a disconnect coming back to New York, actually, where nobody is really talking about that.
Well, we're busy talking about Black Friday sales now, and that's going to be lasting for quite some time. We have something to talk about from now until December 26th. Can I ask one question? Is it ever enough for people? Is it ever enough? Oh my God.
You mean the 50% off?
I'm sweating again. I just sprouted so much more sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a strange time. It's a very strange time.
Yes.
But I did come back with my suitcase. I've just never seen a better video than sweet little Baron walking around with his suitcase to go to school. Oh, you say it so much better.
Suitcase.
No, it's that
don't.
thing where you say you have to throw the words into the front of your mouth.
It's all in the front.
Yeah,
I think it's all in the
so
front.
Impressive.
All in the front.
Suitcase. Last time I was going, you were supposed to be appearing on Have I Got News For You? What happened? You were missing in action.
I was missing in action. I did. I did pull myself out of it, which I do apologize to the whole team for leaving them in a bit of a spot. But they had paired me with Tim Burchett, who is a member of Congress out of Tennessee. And I just didn't feel like it was the right time for me to be on the show. Like, for context, I really like the show. I think it's actually really good. I like and admire everybody who's on it, and I really don't have anything to say to any of them. But my personal boundary is that I really just can't go on like a fun-loving comedy quiz show with someone who just stands so opposite every value that I hold dear.
But isn't that the point of a comedy show?
No, I don't think so. I think the point of a comedy show is to like enjoy the news and have some laughs and do a fist bump and stuff like that. Or at least, that's why I wanted to go on it, because I thought, oh, this will be like a fun lark. And then I thought, when I learned that information, I just went, it's just not for me, not right now. I can't do it. I didn't feel like it was the right forum for me to take a position against his worldview is literally like all in on mass deportation, all in on guns. He's transphobic. He wants to dismantle the Department of Education. He literally wants to defund Planned Parenthood. And I personally have spent the last few weeks of my life in a huddle with fellow board members at Planned Parenthood, strategic planning for a very uncertain future. So it's just physically
I
impossible.
Feel like you would have been very, you would have been like an arrow shooting at him from the other side of the studio.
It's not my show. I don't control any aspect of it. I don't. It's a quiz show. We're answering questions about like the visuals, like what do you see in this picture? It's not an argument show. It's not Crossfire. It's a comedy. It's a lighthearted comedy show.
But I would only take issue with you that it's the show in Britain is in its 68th season, and some of the best episodes have been when they've brought on certainly Boris Johnson, who at the time I think was Prime Minister, and was given such a ribbing by the then team captain Ian Hislop. And I feel like you would have been, I feel like if you remove yourself from the situation, then there's no representative of what you believe in. And I'm sure the other people challenged him. Yes. I'm sure Michael Ian Black would have challenged him.
They would have done a great job.
And certainly Roy Wood.
I can't always be a dancing monkey. I just cannot do it. I just cannot always do it. And I just was not up for it. I just think these questions and these issues that we are facing are literally existential. And I don't have a good sense of humor about it. And I just was not willing to sit on a comedy show with a grim facial expression thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? What is this, like, why am I here?
Okay, well, later we're going to be talking to Mika Brzezinski, who she and Joe, obviously as co-host of Morning Joe, have spent the last few years railing at Donald Trump. And they said they'd gone down to Mar-a-Lago to talk to him because they realized they were in a new position and they have to have conversations. So we can talk to her about that.
Yes.
Slightly different if you're a journalist and not a comedian.
Oh, I think it's entirely different. I actually think it's entirely different. And it's also different if it's your show and you're setting the terms.
So we're joined now by our beast of the week. You know her as the co-host of Morning Joe on MSNBC, where her fresh political takes wake you up faster than that first cup of coffee. Mika Brzezinski. Mika, who is anything but meek, is a fierce advocate for women's empowerment, a best-selling author, and the visionary behind the Know Your Value initiative. She's also a friend of mine and someone I've known for many years. We worked together at Cosmo when Mika had a very influential column. And Mika, you normally cover the news, but this week you became the news after your trip to Mar-a-Lago. Tell us about that.
Well, we told our viewers about it. I don't have much to say beyond that, except that in these fraught times, I do think that we are in an environment, no matter how it started, where everyone's talking at each other, at cameras, on their typewriters. That's how old I am. I say typewriter, but you know what I mean, using their keyboards, talking at each other. And I do believe, and this doesn't just apply to Donald Trump, it applies to anybody in his administration, any Republican, that it's time to start talking face to face, on the record, on background, reconnecting. And it doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to be fun. It's not supposed to be. It's our job. So for us, it absolutely felt like the right thing to do because it is our job. And I've actually been really surprised at the reaction. I've heard from a lot of people in my phone, people that I respect a great deal, leaders, people I don't usually hear from who are really powerful, who just wanted to let me know that that was the right thing to do. And then I have seen, just like the very opposite happening online. Some of it is part of the problem I'm talking about right now. I've heard from reporters by reading about myself, and none of them ever called me. That's a problem. So in part, it is a way of trying to do things differently, and this is a very serious time, and I take what we did, when we did it, how we did it, why we did it, very seriously.
Actually, I was really surprised also by the blowback. Is it possible, because I do personally seek some just kind of like details about what it was like being there? Like, what did you do the outreach? Did he do the outreach? Like, how did it start? Or when did you even begin considering?
I'd call it a combined effort because a lot of this was on background. I hope that we have more conversations. I hope we do an interview. So I want to, stick to the guidelines that we put in place, myself, for the interview. I talked to a reporter last night. She was very, very upset that I did this meeting. And I said, well, wouldn't you? I mean, you work for a extremely powerful, credible publication. And she said, well, I would only go in there if there were certain guardrails put in place. There were certain agreed upon boundaries. Right. And I thought to myself, well, how do you know anything about that in terms of what I've done my best to be as transparent as possible in light of the fact that I had a meeting on background, which this person as a reporter would know exactly what that's about. I've been surprised at the backlash. And the way I look at it is people are really scared. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons we went in there is people are really scared about Donald Trump's comments about political adversaries. A lot of people are scared because of what has happened with abortion. These are all issues that are important to me and in some ways personal to me, but definitely personal to the people I really care about.
Because he's been so personally toxic. He's been so personally insulting to you. And to Joe Scarborough. Like, what are the guidelines that you set for yourself?
Well, I mean, it's my job to interview and talk to people I disagree with, feel threatened by, or who have hurt my feelings in some way. So there's how I do it. I do my job. I mean, do I really not go in there because he tweeted about me bleeding badly from a facelift at Mar-a-Lago, I don't know, 8-9 years ago? I mean, we haven't talked in 7 years. And I will say that's a problem too. So I'm worried about myself and how I conduct myself in this media universe that we're in, taking stock of everything that's happened. I don't regret anything I've said during the campaign, and I stand by it. But I'm also looking at how to do things differently. And I would never turn down an opportunity to gain insider information. Never.
Right.
So how I handle mean tweets or
Right.
the personal stuff is that's just not something I'm supposed to worry about. That's my job. If I let that get in the way of me doing my job, I don't think my viewers would appreciate that.
Mika, to what extent is so much of this also performative? Because Donald Trump is first and foremost an entertainer. He's a performer. He knows his audience. I've never met him. When you had your conversations with him, is he much milder in person? I find it very difficult to know what he's like, because people say he's very funny, he's very charming. Clearly half the country voted for him.
So you've seen him on our show, Joanna. You have seen Joe hang up on him.
Right.
You have seen big fights and also nice conversations in the very beginning or when he was the host of The Apprentice. And I would say that he's often very much the same off the air as he is on the air. A lot of different things at once. And that doesn't change his policies, the things that he wants to do in this next presidency, and what he did in his first presidency. And my biggest issue is the overturning of Roe, of course.
Right.
And so, of course, there
and
were
the
tough
coarsening
moments.
of the language, the coarsening
Yeah.
of the political debate, all of which
all
I
those
think
things
is
true.
Tell us, was Elon Musk there when you were there?
No, it's very private.
Well, I guess when you say, because I'm not sure that everybody who's listening to you or watching this interview knows exactly what it means when you say that you were there on background. So does that mean for our listening audience that you cannot talk about just the setting, like you can't set a scene, or what does that mean?
I mean, I don't want to make this about me, I guess, is when you sort of ask me about the setting and this and that, I can answer, but it's just not about me. It's not about me.
Is it about Mar-a-Lago? Because I've not been there. I'd kill to go, and I would have come with my suitcase, Mika, alongside if you needed a researcher.
Joanna wants to know what room you were in.
See, this is what I love, because talking to Joanna, first of all, she was a political reporter. So she knows exactly what we were doing and there's no illusions to her. And she would, I think, support any of her reporters going to interview a range of people, whether it be dictators, tyrants, or Republicans or Democrats that we disagree with, or the next president of the United States. You would not only support that happening, you would not require that they report to you immediately before. You require they do their job and do these meetings. And you require that when something is done on background, that you don't then run around talking about it. So I'm sharing as much as I can. I'm also not trying to be dishonest or cagey, because Joanna, you understand what reporters do. And every reporter who is watching this, who's then tweeting mean things and writing articles and quoting unnamed sources instead of calling me, that's the part that I will say, I'm not naive, but I am surprised. And I do think I have a reason for this.
Yeah, no, a job of journalists is to shed a light on something which is slightly hidden. And what's going on at Mar-a-Lago feels slightly hidden, although Trump is a very good communicator in terms of who he's putting in positions and things. I was surprised by the blowback you got too, actually.
I was trying to think through it, and I just think everyone is so scared. People, whether they're in the media or they are citizens of this great country, I think everybody is feeling scared, disoriented, fearful of the future. And I think I think just for a quick moment, I might be like the punching bag for that. But I'd like to believe we're going to get through this. I have a lot of questions too, though. And I want the chance to ask them.
It's so hard to imagine that it hasn't even begun yet. Like, he's not the president yet.
No.
And this is where we are.
Did the visit make you feel more hopeful?
No, I would have no illusions about that. I'm glad it happened. The fact that it happened is good. I will leave that there.
Well, Joe reported that Trump seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. Are you able to say which issues?
Well, you know the one I brought up. So I am deeply, deeply upset and fearful for the women of this country. And not just women of childbearing age, but for my daughters, for us, for anybody who might need to go to the hospital and get life-saving health care that is not available in some states because of the overturning of Roe, because of that. I'm going to be looking for ways to work on this issue. And even within the current horrible situation that we find ourselves in, for looking for common ground to try and get, in some states, these bans at least raised to later term, you have to work with the hand you've been dealt. And in this case, it's so interesting. Donald Trump won the election, but in many states, abortion rights won. And so within there's something that can be done. And to your point, I think there is room for movement.
I'm going to actually take that on board, that you just said that you have to play the hand you've been dealt, because this was quite a hand that we've been dealt.
This is it. This is where we are.
I feel like if you could move his opinion like a millimeter in the direction of protecting women, I am all for it. I don't know that is possible. I don't know that anything is possible.
But I'm going to try. I'm going to try. If I go back, if I have another, I will take every opportunity.
Right. Oh boy.
Well, your father was a diplomat too, Mika, so perhaps talking to people is in your DNA.
Yeah, my dad took me, you guys, I've never told this, I don't think, when I was 15. So he was just out of the White House. He was National Security Advisor.
To Jimmy Carter, right?
Yeah. I went on a secret meeting with my dad to Tunisia with Yasser Arafat. And we were taken in a car, no idea where we were going. And during the meeting, we were surrounded by, I'm going to say, probably 20 armed with like machine guns guards. And we had that meeting surrounded by men in guns, with guns. And I was his note taker. I was like, what are you doing? This is some kind of parenting. But my point was that I've been in way more kind of in terms of physically challenging situations. This was a meeting, a meeting that I knew was going to be. I knew people were going to be. We told our viewers on Thursday before the Friday meeting that the nominations so far, some of them are deeply disturbing, and that we look forward to talking to Donald Trump face to face about this. And then we got the opportunity, so we went.
Were you able to tell him that you felt the nominations, some of them were completely
We talked about a number of key issues that are really important to us. So you can imagine that the nominations, abortion. Yeah. If you watch our show, then you know what we talked to him about. And I think we're going to talk again. And I hope that we do. Some people really disagree with this, and I don't. I regret talking about people and not to them. And I've been making a lot of phone calls over the past few weeks, not just because of this, but in general, just looking at where we are, looking at the media universe, and looking at how many unnamed sources are put in articles when you know that person could have just called that person. Like, we know each other. Joanna and I were talking yesterday, and we were talking about some of the coverage in the Daily Beast, some of the coverage elsewhere, and we talk to each other and listen to each other and don't have to agree. I think you are right about my dad. My dad and my mom brought us up to learn to disagree and listen. My brother, Ian, is a Republican. He worked in the Bush administration. And my brother, Mark, is a Democrat. He's the ambassador to Poland. And I am the person who talks to both sides. And our family dinners were all about what can we disagree on? Like, I went to the Madeira school. This school, my parents put me in because I was doing really badly in the school that they sent me to, which was a public school. And I was like wearing blue eyeshadow, and I had a Jordache jeans and comb in my back pocket, and I was acting out, and they were like, whoa, this is unserious.
Well, we're sending you to see Yasser Arafat.
So first you're going to go see Yasser Arafat, and then you're going to an all-girls school. And the woman who interviewed me was the headmistress at the time of the school, and they ended up getting tried and convicted of murdering her boyfriend. And one of our most heated family discussions was about crime of passion. And that's the kind of stuff we talked about at the family dinner table. My point is, my father and mother loved to sort of drop the bombs in the middle of the table and have us go at it. And let me tell you, there was a lot of debate about this. And it didn't mean you held on to exactly what your view was at that table, but the freedom to have the debate and the requirement that it is civil was the key. And so my dad and mom would have often many ambassadors, senators, world leaders. We had Deng Xiaoping, the leader of China, to dinner at our house during the normalizations of relations with China. My father said, let's not do a state dinner at the White House. Let's do it at our farmhouse in McLean. And let me tell you something. There were so many disasters that night because we were all stressed out, but it went really well, except for the part where I spilled caviar on him and where we didn't close the flue of the fireplace and the house got smoked. Like, we were all so nervous, but it was an incredibly memorable, historic experience. And it was the greatest example, actually, I guess, of like what it means to talk.
It's interesting because so much of the criticism is kind of swirls around the idea of normalizing Trump. And I just want to shake everybody and go, no, he's normalized. That ship sailed long ago.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Sam, because I've been talking about that throughout the campaign, what normalization looks like. And when Donald Trump, I tried so hard to tell people, when he says this again and again and again, and at first it's shocking and then it's funny. And these rallies, people are laughing. That's normalization.
Yes.
But you can interview a world leader you can interview Vladimir Putin as a journalist and not normalize him. You can learn. And you can also take a lot of what he says and put it within the context of what we know about him. So that's why your brain has to operate on enough. Many things can be true at one time. And as journalists, I think we have to be open to conversation, and we have to be open to learning, and we have to be open to talking face to face and talking about each other. And quite frankly, coming after me and Joe about doing this is exactly what someone with nefarious intentions would want. So congratulations, you're playing right into it.
Well, may I ask one favor in the future, and that is, can you please sneak Joanna Coles in a duffel bag?
I knew you were going to have that.
Because I just can't handle how much she wants to go there and just take
I will
a couple
keep this
of quick
in mind.
pics.
I can try and make it happen.
Okay, I'm relying on you to make it happen. All right.
Okay.
And also now we understand. I'm thinking that after growing up in that household, Morning Joe must seem like child's play to you.
I'm made for it. I was like, this show, when the show started, I'm like, I literally feel like I'm at my family dinner table. We love each other. We disagree,
But no one is made to get up as early as you must get up to start the show. Please, I'm obsessed by people's morning routines.
It's certifiable.
What time do you get up, and how do you manage to look like you're always, fresh and cheerful to be there?
Well, it hurts, but what does help, honestly, is on the air and off the air. We all really love each other. Our producers, Alex, Dan, Mike, TJ, our director, our entire staff, we love each other, but it's a family. And so it doesn't feel like I'm walking into work. It feels very blended into my life. And I just can't say enough for the people who work for us, who work way worse hours than me.
What time do you get up?
Like 4. I sometimes try and push it and, really, really push it and sleep till 5, but that's a mess.
Can we talk for a sec about your organization, Know Your Value, which sheds light on women's success over 50. Does the work feel, like a little
I wouldn't know anything about that over 50.
Joanna.
Why are you projecting into the future, Mika? This is years off.
Exactly. How dare I be so presumptuous?
We just finished college. Does the work feel different now after America once again was given an incredibly accomplished and competent woman over 50 and said, no, thank you, I'll pass?
I've heard from women from all walks of life that it's helped them get a raise, literally all walks of life. But now it's about getting the things that you need, being able to communicate your value effectively and knowing what it is. And then the 50 over 50 lists, the aspect of that has unbelievably energized the younger portion of Know Your Value, because for the community, the 50 over 50 lists, which we have a US list and a global list, and we honor 200 women in 4 categories, US and 200 more globally, women who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even over 100, who are reaching their highest heights, making their most money, having their greatest impact, finding happiness, starting families well over the age of 50. And what I found when I started the first list is I wasn't shedding light on a few women to be kind of nice and condescending in its own way. No, I was uncovering a groundswell, an earthquake. There are so many women. Our first US list had over 10,000 nominations.
Wow.
And for the younger women, the message of 50 over 50 and all of these women is that you have a different outlook than Joanna and I had. You look at life after 50 and work after 50, and you see something. You see a long runway. You see what you're going to be able to do with your life, and you're going to see all the strange turns and pivots and failures and divorces and things that might happen, and they're not going to be the end. They're going to be a new beginning, and you have a long runway. When I won't speak for Joanna, but when I was 20, and a lot of women on these lists who I've asked this question to because I interview many of them, they never saw anything over 50. When they were younger, 20, 30, when they looked at life and work after 50, they saw white space. They saw maybe darkness. They never saw anything.
The Golden Girls were 52.
That's right. That's right. But my point is, we've changed the outlook for younger women by revealing the success of women well after 50. We have no you-know-what's left, right?
Oh, none.
Over 50?
None. Gone.
And so think how much better we are at what we do, because having you-know-what's.
I'll say it. All the fucks are gone. All the fucks are gone.
Got none left.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is something that you universally hear from women over the age of 50. They're like, I just don't care.
Oh, amen.
So let me just ask you something. Women find it harder to ask for things. That's part of your book, and it comes, or part of your movement, and it comes out of your own personal story. If you're telling younger women, what are the 1 or 2 things that you would say to women to help them negotiate better?
First of all, you got to take all emotion out of it. You've got to practice communicating effectively, and you've got to practice the actual techniques like eye contact, like practice talking in front of a group. If you don't have a group to talk in front of, invite a whole bunch of friends over, stand on a chair and make a toast, and realize how hard that is with everybody looking at you. Have them give you feedback. Practice on your phone. I actually, in one of my first Know Your Value events back in Hartford 12 years ago, I had the Know Your Value, Grow Your Value bonus competition, and I had people send in videos with 1-minute pitches of why they have value and why they deserve $10,000. And I said, remind yourself how many times you deleted that before you sent it in. It's hard. You got to put it into words. You got to consolidate it, and you got to own it. Every part of it, including this part, presentation. And the competition was amazing. A woman who was fired from Wall Street won. She was incredible. And when she was hugging me, it was the end of the day, she had a tube coming out of her arm. And I was like, are you okay? And she goes, oh my God, Mika, I had heart surgery 2 days ago. My doctor told me not to come, but I was practicing on the stretcher. I had to be here. I have a wheelchair backstage. And I was like, wow, this was my very first event in Hartford in a Marriott Marquis ballroom. And I was like, this is like incredible what we're able to do here. And before it was over, you think that's it? Before it was over, everyone's clapping, and this woman grabs my dress and starts pulling on it. And the runner-up was a single mom who worked in an office and wanted to go back to college, to be the first person in her family to go to college, but she had a child. She wanted to go to night school. She named the college Bay Path College. She was really good, Jennifer Hotchkiss. A woman pulled on my dress and grabbed the microphone. I gave it to her, and she goes, I just want to say something. She goes, I'm the CMO of Bay Path College, Jennifer Hotchkiss, runner-up. Come see me on Monday. You were fabulous, and we're going to give you a full ride.
Wow.
And not only did she go and finish in 2 years, she was her graduation speaker. Her life has been changed forever, which made me realize, like, the message of know your value is not just knowing the number and not just communicating it effectively and practicing, but quite frankly, putting yourself out there.
Right.
You've got to put yourself out there.
How do people listening find out more about Know Your Value, Grow Your Value?
I've got the website, knowyourvalue.com. I've got socials. And so, Know Your Value on Instagram. We're building a community. We're doing events. There's the 3050 Summit. There's our event in New York. And I'm going to be doing some more local events around the country in hotel ballrooms because it is my favorite thing in the world to do. I love to get in the room with like 500 women and watch the light bulb go off in their heads because it's actually easy stuff. It's tangible. It's not just for the special few who make it. It's for everyone.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Sam and I, when we're over 50, we're going to
one day.
I'm gonna recommend Sam. Yeah, for when she's over
on the
50,
list. Nominate each other. Wait,
Yes,
look who
gonna
just came in
nominate
here.
her.
Wait. Come here. Say hi to Joanna and Sam.
I'm going to nominate both of you.
Oh,
They're not
please,
50
but-
yet.
well,
I know you're not
but only
50,
when we're
but
50.
in 11 years, I'm going to nominate you all when you turn 50.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
I think we had a good podcast. We're done now.
Oh, are we
I
not
can go home with
recording?
you. No, we're not. Well, they are recording. Everything's
They're not
recorded.
recording. Okay, so let's tell them the real shit
No!
right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Can
tell
you please tell us? Can you please tell us what went down at Mar-a-Lago?
Got to take my
Bye.
earpieces off.
Thank you, Mika.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
And I do think she's right about talking to people because how do you do it otherwise unless you talk to them? And as long as you talk to them in context and you present your point of view and you explain it to people, I'm not sure what else you can do.
I think very importantly, I really disagree with people who take the position that they are normalizing Trump, as I said in the body of the interview. That happened long ago. And, when he first hit the scene, I took the position that it was a terrible idea to normalize him. And I was like very strong on that idea and that issue. I came out hard against normalizing him, but despite my best efforts, it happened anyway, and he became the most beloved person, a godlike figure in the minds of many people. And so there is no normalizing. What he is very normal to people. They love it. They admire it. They gave him control of the House and Senate and the popular vote and the presidency. So that's all done. That part is over. I feel like if I'm interpreting what she has said in this conversation, she's saying, like, if I can get him to move like 1 inch to the left on the issues that I care about, I'm going to take every opportunity I can to make that happen. I don't think they're over there like eating French fries and having a blast. I think they're actually working and trying and saying things like Matt Gaetz is a bad choice. Please do
Tulsi
not.
Gabbard is a bad choice.
Tulsi Gabbard is a bad choice. Listen to us. Please listen to us. And I think that is actually all you can do now is like play the hand that you are dealt. And I think that is what they are doing. So I actually I'm not sure that they articulated that enough to people, or I don't know. Everyone's just mad. And like this goddamn next 4 years is a marathon.
2 years. It's 2 years to the next elections, right?
Sure, but it's still going to be 4 years of ugliness and shit, and there's no guarantee of what's going to happen in 2 years. And this is what we have. This is what we have, and it hasn't even begun yet, and everybody's fighting. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think a lot of the fighting is already in the Trump camp, though. It's not just fighting between Democrats and Republicans. There's internal fighting that's going on too as people assert themselves for power.
Yep, it's just everywhere. It is just Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones like within the Trump camp, I assume, but it's also just a circular firing squad everywhere else and in the media. It sucks to me, and it's a gigantic distraction from the fact that, I don't know, our social media has like literally radicalized the minds of men and boys and women and people of all shapes and sizes. Like we have bigger issues than fighting with each other about who's interviewing whom.
Well, it distracts from the serious work of government, right, which is to run a country and make sure that transport planes don't fall out of the sky, that people get food to eat, that roads work, all the basic, very boring things of government, which require serious people to pay attention to them. All of that gets either swept under the rug or government departments get run by, by people who've no experience and no business running them. That's the most concerning thing. We're joined now by Joel Leppard, the aptly named attorney representing the women who accused Matt Gaetz, Trump's nominee for Attorney General, of paying for sexual favors. These women recently testified before the House Ethics Committee, one of them alleging that she witnessed Gaetz having sex with her underage friend while he was serving as a congressman. When asked if he's reconsidering Gaetz's nomination, Trump's response was a single word: no. Gaetz has long denied these allegations, and the DOJ, following their investigation, declined to bring charges. Furthermore, the House Ethics Committee has decided not to release its report on the case. So, Joel, thank you for coming in and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why are you doing this?
So our primary motivation in coming forward at this time is that my clients have been through a lot and they do not wish to go through anything further. Since 2020, they have provided testimony at the behest of the Department of Justice and to the House later on this year. And each time they do it, it reopens new wounds, and it's been, frankly, a very, very difficult process. And when Representative Gaetz resigned and prevented the House ethics report from being released, a lot of folks are talking about my clients being forced to testify in open on the floor of the Senate. I get questions all the time. In fact, just this morning, I got 3 or 4 texts about that from reporters. So our main point is to advocate for the release by giving the American public a highlight of what's in, a fraction of what I'm aware of, 2 out of the 12 witnesses, so that the American people can decide for themselves whether or not they think it's a good idea for the report to be released.
What drew you to this case in the first place?
Well, it's an Orlando case. So there are virtually every prominent criminal lawyer in Orlando has represented one of the witnesses.
Okay, I see. I can't imagine how you're feeling in this moment. Can you describe what your day has been like up to this
I'm feeling hungry and tired.
I bet.
I had a little snack and I got some.
Human lawyer.
Protein,
You're a human
protein
lawyer.
matcha fuel.
Okay.
I am. You know what? I think it's important to be a human. That's something I strive to do with my clients. How I'm feeling right now is I do have a big knot in my stomach.
What do you think about the decision that was, literally just made?
It's frankly not surprising. I think the House was kind of signaling that way, that's the way that they were going. I was hoping to put a lot of pressure on them, but I think for a lot of us out there, we are also hoping that there are a lot of folks with access to the information, and that that information would get public. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's what we're all hoping to see in the coming hours or days, that perhaps that information could come out and allow our clients' testimony to speak for themselves.
If the report does come out, then your clients, who are currently anonymous and speaking through you, become much more public. How does that help them, given that the Justice Department has decided not to press charges?
There's a lot in that multi-part question, but I would actually disagree. The House, the staff lawyers at the House assured us that our clients would remain anonymous, that they would take great pains in order to make sure that all the details that they shared would not remain public. So no phone numbers, no email addresses, nothing that would allow the public to identify my clients. It's only in that context that we've promoted the House report, because we know that would be the most anonymous way for our clients to get what is required of them out to the American public while also remaining anonymous.
They must have a terrible knot in their stomachs too. They must be, can you describe their mindset right now? Are they resolute, or are they just like, I don't know what to do?
They are very private individuals. And so their main concern, I know it doesn't make for a good podcast, but I can say that we're all anxious right now. I did just get off the phone with them, and I was texting them just before I got on with you. There is a lot of anxiety about being contacted by individuals, most of whom so far have been in the media, but some folks are polite and other folks aren't.
Oh.
So in most of the time, it's they're not used to being in the limelight. They didn't ask for
Right.
this, so it's scary when they get a phone call, when they get a weird text. They're worried about losing their jobs. It's a real. They've been. I can't tell you how much they've been through, and they're incredibly strong women. The events that took place for from 2017 to 2019. My clients, are now in their mid-20s, and they've moved on in their professional careers.
Okay, so what are they? Can you tell us what they're doing now?
They asked me not to release any identifiable information about them, but they're in professional jobs.
Right.
We do know that one of them was in school and she's moving on with that.
Right.
So that's something that's out in the public. So they're moving on, just like all the rest of us in our mid-20s, figuring our lives out, getting our first jobs, trying to see what the future holds. And this has certainly been a very unique and trying time for them.
How do you actually address these women's safety and their well-being?
I mean, that's something that we're talking about. Of course, they take precautions. We were talking about that today in terms of making sure that they have personal safety devices, limiting their social media. It's taking quite a toll. We're taking all the kind of precautions that we can to make sure they both are safe and feel safe. And in the event that potentially their identities become made known to the general public.
With all that has transpired, how do you view Trump's unwavering support for Matt Gaetz? And what message does that send to the American public? And do I even really need to ask that question? But I am asking it.
That's the whole point about this is that to the right were these anti-Gaetz, anti-Trump, like trying to just out to get him, and to the left were these anti-pedophile, like amazing saviors. Like, that's not really what's happening here at all. My clients have been called to testify, and they've only done so when been required to do so. So they're reluctant witnesses, which certainly I think gives them quite a bit of credibility. And if you had access to their testimony and you saw them testify, you would know that they're absolutely telling the truth.
Right.
They have zero motivation to lie.
Yeah, I mean, lying brings you nothing. It actually confers no benefit to you to come forward in this way. I do know that. So I guess my question is, what is the outcome that you are hopeful for? Or what do you hope that next steps could include? What would you want that to look like?
Well, I would hope to see that the report would be released in some way to the American public, and then they can make they can do their job in talking to their elected officials, and as a republic, we can decide who's the best fit for the nation's top law enforcement official. And then my clients can move on with their lives. That's really what they want. That's their dog in the fight.
And how disappointing was it to them that the DOJ decided not to press charges?
I mean, there's certainly a sense of frustration there that everything that they've been put through is for nothing. Unfortunately, that's a realistic part of the criminal justice system that I see all the time, but it doesn't make it any easier for those that are on either side of the more frustrating aspects of our criminal justice system. It's been tough. And, I can't imagine what it'd be like to give the testimony, to just have your cell phone, your most private possession, just immediately taken away from you with no notice, and to have all these strange FBI guys, looking at, and possibly, we'll just say they were looking at some very, very sensitive photos, and to have them blown up, nude photos. I mean, it's incredibly embarrassing and incredibly trying. So it's safe to say they're certainly frustrated that they've been so far in the process, and that for seemingly political reasons, nothing has gone anywhere. And it's not like they started this; they were just wrapped up into it.
The women's identities are being kept private, but there is one person who definitely knows their identities, and that is Matt Gaetz. Are they fearful of retaliation, and are you fearful of retaliation, and what that could look like?
There's always the threat of something bad happening to anyone who puts themselves in the public eye. Even if you're just a celebrity on The Daily Show, I'm sure you've been harassed, as anyone in the public eye is. At some point, I wanted to say, hey, Samantha, I've been watching The Daily Show since I was a wee lad, and I wanted to fanboy and say, but,
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, listen, I'm I don't know. This is such an intriguing case, and I really feel for these women, and I really feel for you, and I think they're really brave. This is really hard. This is really hard.
It's tough. It is
really, really, it's punishing. And Anyway, so I guess I'm fangirling back at you. I think that was my version of what that looks like.
That's as good as it gets, Joel. That's as good as a fangirl as you're ever going to get from our Sam B.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we will stay tuned as to whether or not the report does eventually get released. I can't believe someone hasn't hacked into it by now.
I really wish you all well. I really do.
Thank you so much.
I hope that the women's identities are kept private. I want that for them.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so now we're welcoming a standout talent in the world of media and my work husband, Daily Beast executive editor, Hugh Dougherty. Hugh, you're back from last week's analysis on the Mar-a-Lago patio with your bold, unfiltered style, which you've honed over the years at the Daily Telegraph, the New York Post and the Daily Mail. What is going on at Mar-a-Lago this week?
Well, Sam, Joanna, what have you missed at Mar-a-Lago? You've missed world leaders, you've missed dancing, you've missed feuding, you've missed poolside speeches, and you've missed road trips.
What?
It's been a full-on week for the people of the patio.
Oh boy, because the last time we checked in, we had Marco Rubio, we had Kristi Noem, and that's about it.
And which now feels, in the light of the more recent announcements, positively sane.
Yes.
It's just gone like hurtling south. And then, of course, we've got, which I love his name, Melania, or Melonia, which is Elon as First Lady.
Oh, Lord.
Melonia.
Okay. Begin at the beginning. What have we missed? Please catch us up. I'm just desperate for more information.
Well, there's been a tranche of cabinet appointments. These are people that Trump is going to ask the Senate to approve, and that's brought with it its own drama. Matt Gaetz is the Attorney General pick, Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, and RFK Jr. for Health and Human Services. Some of the undercard is getting filled in as well. Dr. Oz, the former television doctor and failed Senate candidate, he is in the running to run the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, which is a huge and crucial job. And alongside that, there has been lots of feuding. And the feuding is around who's going to be Treasury Secretary. And last week we talked about the Battle of the Patio. And this week that battle has kept going. It's a war of attrition on the patio. Howard Lutnick, who is the chairman or co-chairman of Trump's transition team, was, when we last spoke, frontrunner for that Treasury post. He had the backing of Elon Musk. Elon Musk even tweeted about him, or posted on X, I should say, about how Howard Lutnick was the man. And Howard Lutnick got a consolation prize. He is the Commerce Secretary. And when I'm speaking to you, there's still no announcement. Instead, the field of candidates has opened back up again, and all of them have had to do one thing, which is go to Mar-a-Lago to be interviewed on the patio and maybe in the fake situation room. So it's been a busy, busy week for everybody in the sunshine.
Who is doing the interviewing? Is it Trump and J.D. Vance? Are there more people? Is Elon also there? I would say they're not the most qualified interviewers in the land. They don't have the best questions or the best background. So who is doing it? Who is part of that process? What does the vetting look like?
Definitely the first buddy. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Elon Musk is in many of these interviews. Some of them are more improvised than others. Matt Gaetz was actually a surprise even to Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. He went to see Trump while on the plane to DC, and Susie Wiles was in another cabin, and he went in with Boris Epshteyn, who's a key Trump advisor, came out as the pick for Attorney General, and that's how Susie Wiles learned about it. So it's a bit of a chaotic process. It's a bit hard sometimes to work out who's making the decisions, but all of them ultimately are made by Trump, and many of them are made very, very quickly indeed, and perhaps too quickly for the kind of rigorous background checks that other administrations have been seen as being absolutely crucial.
So, Huey, how is the power battle going on with Elon Musk and Donald Trump? If Elon didn't get the candidate that he wanted for Treasury Secretary, in fact, Howard Lutnick has gone to be Commerce Secretary.
I describe it as a proxy battle. Earlier this week, our Josh Fialo, who happens to be in Florida, reported how Elon Musk had a blow-up with Boris Epshteyn, and it was on the patio. We're not sure if Trump was there or not, but that after that, Howard Lutnick lost out. So what seems to be the case is not that the battles involve Trump, but that they involve different people in his orbit, and they are attempting to knife each other. But it does look like Elon, for all that he lost the Howard Lutnick battle, is definitely the closest person to Trump right now. Elon took Trump to Brownsville in Texas to watch the launch of one of his rockets. And Trump also took some people with him, so it gives you some idea of who gets to travel. This time it was Don Jr., who is, of course, very much part of the inner circle. And perhaps surprisingly, a couple of senators. Ted Cruz was there, although he didn't travel with Trump, and he is the senator for Texas. But also there was Bill Haggerty, and he's one of the people that, as we speak, is in the running to be Treasury Secretary. So it seems that he was at the very least trying to get Elon's favor as well as Trump's.
There's so many people who I would have loved to have boarded that rocket.
Yeah. It was actually empty, Sam. So yes, you could have loaded it up. And it didn't quite go entirely to plan. It looked great. It took off as it was supposed to. And the plan initially had been for it to be caught, but at the landing site, that amazing site that we've seen, which Trump described as chopsticks, where one of Musk's rockets manages to come back to Earth. That didn't happen this time. Instead, they crashed it into the Indian Ocean.
Oh.
So
if you've got any wish fulfillment there, Sam.
Hugh, there appears to be one person missing from all that, and this is J.D. Vance. What's happened? Has J.D. been elbowed out of the way by Elon?
It's a very interesting question. And right now, there have been sightings of J.D. Vance, but 1,500 miles away in the Capitol. He's been taking the nominees around the Capitol to meet other senators before the confirmation hearings. The official name is Sherpa because they're supposed to be a guide. Certainly there are people who think that that's a demotion for a vice president. Other people have called him a valet or a butler. And his job as a valet is to park those people in front of senators and get the senators to agree to confirm them. So that's not traditionally a job for vice presidents. And yes, you're right that J.D. Vance has largely been absent from Mar-a-Lago. He was seen at a tuxedo-clad event, and that was the last time as I speak to you, that he was in public at Mar-a-Lago back last week.
It's never really a good thing when someone like a J.D. Vance goes quiet. It's like when you have little children and they're in another room and everything goes quiet. That means that something terrible is happening that you are not seeing, and everybody's like sticking their fingers into electrical sockets or eating eyeshadow. You don't know what it's going to be, but it's not a good thing.
It's definitely not a good thing.
No.
So, Hugh, my understanding is the three most controversial appointments are Tulsi Gabbard at the Department of Intelligence, obviously RFK Jr. and his brainworm at the Health and Human Services, and then, of course, Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Do we have any confidence that the Senate will actually reject some of these appointments?
No. I'm going to answer that question for you. No, we don't have any confidence of anything ever again. End of story.
Can you just tell me why you named your cat? Just for regular listeners, they may not know the name of your cat.
I keep talking about her. My cat's name is Susan Collins, and I'm very certain. The only thing I'm actually certain of in this entire world is that Susan Collins is going to disappoint me in the next few months in some capacity. And I hope that that does not reflect poorly on my cat, who is a beautiful, sassy creature.
But didn't you call her Susan Collins because Jason, your husband, insisted if you were to get another cat, you could only have one with a name that would always make him laugh?
It always makes us laugh until it doesn't.
Right.
Which may be coming soon.
How does she manages to get a sort of a reputation of someone who's thoughtful, and yet she seems to regularly come down on the wrong side of decisions?
I mean, almost always. I mean, she talks a good game, and she's sort of deliberative, except when she actually casts her vote. I mean, what can I say? Susan Collins, Don't do it.
Huey, thank you very much for this update. We're glad that you're taking the patio duties very seriously. Thank you to Josh Fiallo, our excellent correspondent in Florida, who's really covering his bases down there. Any final words? What should we be looking for the next week?
I would say that the thing to look out for is not just the people on the patio, but their wives and husbands. And we have an excellent guide to the WAGAs, the MAGA wives, by our Emil Adolphus. He's put together who the real queens are in the world of MAGA. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from them, except the biggest one of them all, Melania, who has now not been seen for 4 or 5 days at Mar-a-Lago or in New York. But there's a lot more drama to come. And I'm off to check out the Endless Shrimp, because there's one place in the country that still got it. It's Mar-a-Lago.
Huey, thank you very much. And I can't wait to read our Wives and Girlfriends Guide to MAGA, WAGA Guide to MAGA. It's fantastic.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Joanna.
Sam, always good to spend time with you, especially in these troubling, serious times, as Mika said. Thank you for listening too. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with a friend. We'll be back next Thursday with another episode of the Daily Beast podcast. And remember, if anyone has seen RFK ordering a McFlurry at 2 a.m., please email us post-haste at beastpod@thedailybeast.com. And you can tell us anything else you feel like. I got reprimanded last week by being over-enthusiastic about Elon Musk's involvement. So I take the feedback.
Okay. And as my once muse said, be best.
Sam, you know this. It's Be Beast.
We really need t-shirts.
We do need t-shirts.
I mean,
we need t-shirts.
I want to wear one.